Well, this might be exactly what the Eagles needed, as with the NFC's 2 seed still on the line going into the final week of the regular season, the Birds could possibly be getting some unexpected help with the latest news coming out of Detroit. So Chicago better watch their backs, and also the Eagles themselves may shock some people this week. As with the backups officially playing, there is still good reason to think that Tanner McKee and company can pull off the upset over the Commanders. Plus, there's a lot of players that are going to be really exciting to watch, possibly including a completely unexpected defender who recently earned the praises of Saquon Barkley. So let's talk about that and all the other latest Eagles news going into this regular season finale starting right now. So the NFL playoffs are right around the corner, and for the Eagles, they got massive goals once again, as they'll be looking to finish things off the same way they did last year with back-to-back Super Bowl titles. And honestly, even with the offensive struggles and all the issues that they've had this year, I seriously don't think that's impossible. They just got to keep doing what they're doing on defense, and if we can just get the good version of the offense more often than the bad version, then I think they got a real shot. So drop a like down below if you still believe the Eagles got a shot at this thing, or even if you don't. Let's see if we can hit 500 likes today. You guys killed it last video. But before we get to the playoffs, we obviously got to get through this final week of the regular season, and even though the starters aren't set to play, this last game against the Washington Commanders is important in its own right, not just because it's a big opportunity for the backups to get some much-needed reps and for the coaches to get things moving in the right direction offensively again, but also because, as you all know at this point, the 2 seed is still on the line. And even though the Eagles do need help in the form of the Lions beating the Bears, they also have to win this game too to still have a shot at it. So that makes this game different from a normal regular season finale where the starters rest, because something is actually on the line in this one. So for the guys that are playing, you better believe they're going to be ready for this opportunity.
Is it exciting for you that this game, there's actually seeding on the
Yeah,
line for you?
yeah. No, I'm definitely excited for that. It's obviously fun when something's on the line, but anytime you get out, it's an opportunity to go out and perform and to play. That's what we do. And so if there was nothing on the line, or if it was the Super Bowl, you're going to approach the game the same way. It's an opportunity to go out and play the game.
Even though I personally probably would have played the starters, I do understand why they're not and why they prefer to have the guys rest, and I'm also excited to see the backups get a chance to go out there and play in a game where, it actually means something. And there are quite a few guys that I am going to be excited to watch on Sunday, so let's go through some of them here, and shout out to Dave Zangaro of NBC Sports Philadelphia for putting this list together, but obviously it all starts with quarterback Tanner McKee. I mean, it seems like every time this guy gets an opportunity to play, whether it's in the preseason or the regular season, he makes the most of it. Last year, we saw him come in during the second half of a Week 17 game against Dallas, where he threw 2 touchdowns and helped seal a division-clinching Eagles victory. And then the very next week, he got the start against the New York Giants at home, and he looked really good once again, throwing for 269 yards on 66% completion in 2 touchdowns. So you better believe that I expect him to come in here in this game against the Commanders and look good once again. And you also better believe that he's ready for this opportunity as well.
Obviously super excited for the opportunity, but feel like each week leading up I've been preparing like I'm going to play in case I do, and so I feel like the preparation's been pretty similar. It's nice to get more reps in practice, obviously, but yeah, just really excited for the opportunity. Obviously with more reps you get more confidence. You have that good chemistry with the guys around you. So, obviously feel like I have a good feel, can play fast. I feel like as a quarterback, it's really big to be able to play and just react to the game instead of trying to think of what's my job, what's my footwork, what's everybody else doing. You can just play and react. And so I feel like I've gotten to that point. I feel comfortable doing that.
I'm curious to hear your guys' predictions for how many yards and touchdowns you expect Tanner McKee to throw for in this game. So give me those down in the comments below. But moving on to the next guy that I'm excited to watch, we got backup running back Tank Bigsby, and this is a guy that Eagles fans have been begging to see more of all season long because every time he gets in there and, runs the football, he looks really, really good, and he's had some really nice runs in limited playing time this season, whether you want to go back to the Birds' Week 8 game against the Giants where he broke off a couple big runs, or just a couple weeks ago against this same Commanders defense, he had his lone touchdown run of the season, which came from 22 yards out. And with Washington having the second worst rush defense in the entire league, giving up nearly 146 yards per game on the ground, I expect Bigsby to be able to have some serious success in this game. And then moving on to the wide receivers, there's a few guys who I'm excited to watch, and we'll start with Jahan Dotson, who of course is typically wide receiver 3, but will likely be wide receiver 1 for at least the first half in this game. And this is a guy who we know is really talented. I mean, he's made big plays for this team before when his number is called. He just doesn't really get many opportunities in the regular season because of all the talent around him. But, last year in the season finale, when the starters rested, Dotson was the Birds' leading receiver, putting up 7 catches for 94 yards. So I expect something similar from him in this game, but I'm even more excited to watch the undrafted rookie, Darius Cooper. So after an impressive training camp and preseason that earned him a roster spot, Cooper had a ton of hype coming into this year, and even though he has gotten playing time throughout the season, this is going to be his first real opportunity to actually get some targets and put up some numbers. So I'm definitely excited to watch him in this one. And then also, I don't want to forget about Britton Covey, who of course is the punt returner for this team, and a really good one at that. But as a receiver, we just haven't gotten to see much of him there. But if you will remember back to last season, Covey was garnering a lot of hype in training camp, and before the Birds traded for Jahan Dotson late in August, it seemed like Covey was possibly going to be the wide receiver 3. So I'm excited to see him get an opportunity on offense in this game. And then along the offensive line, there's 2 rookies there that are going to be intriguing to watch, those being the center/guard Drew Kendall, who has an interesting skill set and had a good offseason, and then tackle Cameron Williams, who the Birds just brought up onto the active roster after his 21-day practice window came to an end. So again, it'll be interesting to see how those 2 look. And then on defense, there's some young players there that I'm also excited to watch, and we'll start at linebacker with the duo of Jihaad Campbell and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Obviously, we've seen a lot of Campbell this season, and he's looked really, really good, but it's definitely nice that he's going to get another game of experience before the playoffs, and I only expect him to look great once again. And then Trotter Jr. is going to be fun to watch as well because, I feel like we forget that he was taking first-team reps at linebacker for most of training camp this year, and he was apparently playing really well. And while maybe he's not quite as explosive as guys like Jihaad Campbell and Kobe Dean, he has still proven to be a productive, capable player at the linebacker position in the opportunities that he's gotten. And again, he's another guy who every chance that he's gotten, every opportunity he's gotten, he's taken advantage of it. So again, I'll be excited to see him play. And then on the defensive line, there's the rookie, the Vanilla Gorilla Ty Robinson, who, he hasn't gotten very much playing time this year, but I think he's got some talent, and I'm definitely excited to see him get a bigger role this week. And then in the secondary, there's also the rookie Mac McWilliams and Michael Carter II, who both haven't gotten much playing time as well, but they're both intriguing players with intriguing skill sets, and I'll be interested to watch them as well. And again, shout out to Dave Zangaro for writing that article, making that list of 12 players there, covering pretty much everyone that I would have talked about anyway. But the one addition that I will make is safety Sidney Brown, because at this point, I know everybody really doesn't like Sid, and I understand the concerns with him, like I really do, guys, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, he might just end up playing a crucial role for this Eagles defense, at least in the first round of the playoffs. As with Marcus Epps' surprise concussion, that leaves his status for the wildcard round in question, and assuming Andrew Makuba isn't back by then either, there's a chance that Sidney Brown might have to start in that first playoff game, and if that is in fact the case, him getting these reps in the regular season finale is going to be really important. So hopefully he can make the most of his opportunity this week as well. And then also, I do want to mention the linebacker Chance Campbell, who I believe is currently on the practice squad. So not sure he's going to get the call up for this final game. We'll see on that. But if he does, it'll be interesting to see what he can do because Saquon Barkley actually just had some really, really high praise for him. As he told Zach Berman and other reporters, quote, "See this MFer right here? Really good. Like probably one of the best scout team players I have ever gone against in my life." So again, coming from Barkley, that is some really high praise, and those comments should definitely hold some weight. And that only makes me interested to see what Campbell can do in an actual game. So again, hopefully he gets that opportunity on Sunday. But overall, I honestly think that this group of backups could beat this Commanders team. I mean, don't get me wrong, they do definitely have some talent, but this is also a 4-12 football team who hasn't really played well all season, and they're going into this game with their third-string quarterback Josh Johnson as the starter. As of course, Jane Daniels is shut down for the year, and the Commanders just officially ruled out Marcus Mariota and starting left tackle Laramie Tunsil on Friday. And no offense to Josh Johnson, but he doesn't exactly scare me or present as a real threat in my eyes. And I think even the Eagles' backup defense should be able to have some success against him. The real challenge, though, is just going to be containing Washington's number 4 ranked run offense. That might be a challenge, but aside from that, Washington doesn't really have very much going for them, as their defense is statistically one of the worst in the league, being ranked second to last in yards, 28th against the pass, again, second to last against the run, and 27th in points allowed. So, again, at home against a Commanders team that isn't very good and with some backup players that I actually do have faith in. I very much do think that the Eagles can win this game. The one important thing that I do want to see though this week is the offense get back on track from a coaching perspective. And obviously we've talked all week about this, so I don't really want to get super repetitive here. But obviously in that second half against the Bills, the Eagles reverted back to some bad habits and it really cost them. But in previous weeks against the Raiders, these same Commanders, and even in the first half against the Bills, the Eagles offense looked pretty good, and it seemed that they had turned a corner in terms of play calling, design, scheme, and play sequencing. So we know it's in there, they just got to get back to it in this game, and if they can do that, I'm going to feel pretty good about where this team is at going to the playoffs, whether they're the 2 or the 3 seed. And again, I think it all starts with the run game. I mean, if the Eagles can get that going, then the rest of the offense opens up, and the Birds got a prime opportunity here this week to work some of those struggles out against a Washington team that is near the very bottom of the league at defending the run. So hopefully this backup offensive line can execute, and Tank Bigsby can have a big day on the ground, and overall, this offense just gets back on track right ahead of the playoffs. Now, as for the injury updates, it's more of the same on Friday as it was on Thursday. All of Lane Johnson, Jalen Carter, Nakobe Dean, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Phillips, and Marcus Epps were out of practice and listed as out for the game. But again, I expect all those guys to be ready for the playoffs, besides maybe Epps, but we'll talk more about that next week. And then we already went over the news for the Commanders. Tunsil and Mariota are out. Josh Johnson is in. And then there's also some significant news for the other game that matters this week, that being the Bears versus Lions. As Chicago is dealing with a few injuries on offense, as wide receiver Rome Odunze and starting left tackle Ozzie Trapilo are both questionable, and safety Jaquan Brisker is also questionable with an illness. Meanwhile, for the Lions, they're going to be missing quite a few key players like Alex Anzalone and Penei Sewell, but the good news is that Amon Ra St Brown returned to practice this week and is questionable for the game. But he himself during the week said that he should be good to go for Sunday, which obviously, if Detroit does have their number 1 wide receiver out there, that only makes them a tougher matchup for their division rival Bears and adds firepower to a Lions offense that we know can score points. And if there's one thing we know about Dan Campbell's Lions, it's that they're going to play hard. So they're not going to make this easy on the Bears to wrap up the number 2 seed. And as an Eagles fan, I am somewhat optimistic that Detroit could pull off the upset and help the Eagles get up to number 2. But that aside, all the Birds can control is their game against Washington, and I'm going to pick them to win by a final score of 23-13. But you guys can give me your score predictions for both games down in the comments below. And also, while I'm here, I did want to shout out the guy that I met at the gym today because he's the first guy that ever, came up to me and recognized me from my videos in public. Like, it just made my entire day, so I really do appreciate you. I know we talked for a while there, but just wanted to shout you out. I don't know. I thought that was awesome, and if any of you guys see me out in public, don't be afraid to come up to me. And also, if you don't want to miss any other Eagles coverage coming during the playoffs or moving forward into the offseason, make sure you guys subscribe and you turn on notifications, and also drop a like down below to show some support because it really does help me out a ton. So you can get to at least 500 likes on this video, and also hit the hype button because that really helps me out a ton as well. And if you do want to watch another Eagles video, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.